Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Pop Talks. It has been quite a while since we have recorded, but we are back. I am your host, Andy. I'm here with.
Hey everybody, it's Todd McFarlane here, creator of Spawn and upcoming cinematic masterpiece, also known as Spawn. No, this is Jason.
Also known as Todd McFarlane Spawn. Gotta get that name recognition in there. You're gonna hear our Todd McFarlane impression a lot through this episode. But before we get to the subject, we're gonna introduce our brand new guest, Mr. John Sturkie. Say hello to the people, John.
Hello to the people, John. I'm glad to be here. A lot of fun. I don't have a Todd McFarlane impression, so I hope that's not...
I just stole Andy's. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah, I invented it.
Oh, yeah.
He invented Todd McFarlane.
What an honor to be here with the man who invented Todd McFarlane.
And we're here today. John's a regular, and you can come.
I eat a lot of fiber.
Yeah. Also, he's in the British military, I think.
And we've been trying to. This episode has been a few weeks in the making, but we're talking about the rise of Image Comics today because John, I ring you up a lot.
Yes.
Most of what you get is like independent books for the most part.
Mostly independent, and mostly Image Comics as independent.
And same, I would say, for Jason is mostly independent. Books is what we're reading, and in the last year, I have definitely shifted more. Myself personally shifted more towards independent books too. So we're talking about the rise of the ultimate independent company, Image Comics.
Yeah, well, they're sort of like the Sam Adams of comics. You know, like they're the biggest independent that there is.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I often describe them as like they're the mainstream alternative comics. Like as far as alternative comics go, they're the biggest one.
They're like A24.
Sure,
Studios.
Yeah.
You're still gonna see them in a theater.
Yeah.
But maybe not everybody's aware of what this particular movie is.
Yeah. You don't have to go to the Lamley to see it.
Yeah.
And that's not even the biggest they've been. When they first started, they were bigger than DC. For the years. Only comic book company that's ever been able to break into the big two, other than Marvel and DC.
Yeah.
And then they stopped doing superheroes.
Yeah.
Well, no, they kept doing the superhero books. That's
the problem.
That may have been the problem. Yeah.
Before we get to that, though, we should probably start on the origin of it, which is actually kind of impressive.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
Sure.
I have the Wikipedia here, so you can tell that we're doing quite a bit of research for this episode.
Because I can only remember 4 of them.
Okay,
so
four of the guys.
Four of the 7 that started it.
Let's see if I can.
Let's get the big 3 out. Those are the free spaces:
right.
Rob Liefeld, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane.
Right.
Those were the rock stars of the comic book world in '92.
Yeah.
Rob Liefeld doing Levi commercials. He was so popular.
Right. Yeah. That's like Marky Mark territory.
Yeah.
Right there.
Jim Lee having just broken the record for most comics sold in the opening run with X-Men #1 selling 8 million comics, and Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man #1 just record sales as well, reinvigorating a character that had long been faltering. So biggest names in comics, and 4 other guys.
Let's see. It was Will Splitaccio, Jim Valentino, Mark Silvestri, and
you're missing one of my favorites,
Eric Larson?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes. Yeah, right. So those guys, as I understand it, it was 3 or 4 of them had kind of banded together already, or maybe even all 6 of them, but they needed Jim was their linchpin, that they were without Jim, this may not happen, but if we have him, they will not be able to deny our power.
Well, it started with, Liefeld was the agitator.
Okay.
And, pulled McFarlane in pretty easily, because... no shock there. But they realized they were agitators. They were the troublemakers.
Right, yeah.
They needed the cleanest guy in comics.
Right.
And Jim Lee was just coming off of that big win. 8 million comics is a lot of comics.
Yeah, it's a shitload of comics.
And he's the one that drew it. So they approached him. They got him on board fairly easily.
Yeah.
And then it was... I want to say Valentino was their 4th.
Okay.
And that's where they scheduled the meeting with Marvel.
Right, yeah.
And from there, they're like, well, let's see what else we can recruit.
Right, yeah.
Silvestro was actually recruited on the way from the lobby of the hotel to the meeting.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They like hit him up. They're like, listen, we're going
Yeah.
to do this and we're doing it now.
Or it was the night before. Yeah, they got him in the hotel
that's
bar.
Right. Yeah.
They stayed up late, and he's like, okay, but you got to tell us by 7 a.m. because that's when we're
that's when we're reporting.
That's when we're meeting with Marvel.
And yeah,
so basically just give them the finger, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they said we're quitting, and these aren't demands. These are the reasons why we're quitting.
Yeah.
Just so that you know why this is happening, because this is going to happen again if you don't fix these things. But rest assured, no matter what you say, we are quitting.
Yeah.
And it was the work for hire, the creator rights, the low pay, and basically, unless you were Rob Liefeld, making royalties upon royalties, you didn't make money as a comic book artist, no matter how good the book sold.
You gotta remember, these guys were all in their 20s too.
Right.
Yeah.
Rob Liefeld was fresh out of high school.
Yeah, if you look at the pictures back then, he looks like a high school kid wandered into the picture with some cool comic book guys.
Look at pictures of him now. He looks a bit like he's fresh out of high school.
Yeah, that's true.
Or fresh out of Image. 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
But I forget. I was watching there's a documentary on it called The Image Revolution, where they said they would literally go over to each other's houses, and like I think one of them was still living with their parents at that point. Like it might have been Rob Liefeld that was still living with his parents.
Yeah, because he was 17.
Yeah, because he was like he was. He was like 18, 19, 20 years old, and they would come over and they would be drawing comics like at each other's houses and like spending the night at each other's houses, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is like literally like college freshmen that are creating the 8 million comics that are being sold,
Yeah, well, but to be fair, part of that is the time, the early 90s, when people were starting to make money off of the old 40s and 50s comics. No one was really doing the math that those were valuable because they were rare.
Right. Yes. Exactly.
but so it was in the middle of that bubble. People were buying comics by the box because they thought it would be valuable.
Yeah.
And but at the same time, who cares why they're buying it? People are buying it. The hobby was popular.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so stuff like X-Men, X-Force, anything with an X on it, like made a shit ton of money. And then Spider-Man, which I gotta be honest, like I've read Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man. It's pretty good. Like, because there's a lot of comics from the 90s that you'll go back to and you're like, oh, this is like not, like, it was clearly like more about the novelty of reading comics than it was about the actual stories.
Yeah.
But like Spider-Man is actually, especially the first like arc, maybe it goes downhill after that, but like it's not bad. And the art is fucking phenomenal. But so you kind of look at this and it's not, because we like to make fun of Image Comics, as we will on this show, or the early guys we like to make fun of. But there was some like real talent going on behind here. It's sort of the way, what it kind of reminds me of, and we'll get into this. It kind of reminds me of like Josh Trank.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like the director of the Fantastic Four movie, where it's sort of like you look at Chronicle.
How could I have not known?
Yeah.
you look at Chronicle.
Yeah.
And there's some like legitimate talent there. It's not like, oh, where the fuck did they get this guy from? It's like, no, he made like a fucking awesome superhero movie. It's just the fame kind of got to these people's heads. And to be fair, Josh Trank, that's not his fault. The studio fucked him over hard with that movie. But you get my point. Like there are all these young directors coming in that like actually have a vision. These guys had a vision. Like they were revolutionizing comics.
Yeah, they brought the leaps off the page art style to popularity. Dynamic comic book art was being developed in brand new ways through these artists. As opposed to older, more static panels. These guys were popping muscles and pouches everywhere. Just right in your face. Yeah.
Well, even Todd McFarlane said that like he looked at like the design of Mary Jane and Spider-Man, and he goes, she still looked like she was a model from the 70s, and it's like 1991. So it's like I finally started drawing it like it was 1991, and just those little updates that these young guys brought was what made these things so popular.
Well, and that's why when these guys left Marvel, and then a few days later met with DC.
They
They
as an
went
afterthought.
to DC. Yeah, they were like, and by the way, fuck you too.
Well, and they scheduled that meeting, and DC's like, oh, they just quit Marvel, and now they're scheduling a meeting with us?
Yeah,
boy!
And Jim Lee is among them. He's never worked for us. This is amazing.
And then they were quickly disappointed.
Yeah.
But, like, that's why Marvel's stock dropped $3.25 right after this happened. CNN was reporting on them leaving because these guys were rock stars. These guys were big, revolutionary in comics, and Marvel just lost all of them.
Yeah.
Like in like one fell swoop.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's not like they dropped off and a few more left. Like, no, like they banded together and were like, we out.
Yeah, it's the all-star team. This would be like if Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Mark Ruffalo, Chris Hemsworth, and Tom Holland all quit at the same time, and we're just like, you know what, we're not doing this anymore. Like, you lost everybody.
And then went and started their own movie studio with their own superhero team.
That were actually more popular.
Yeah,
and then that outgrossed all the Marvel movies.
Yeah, exactly.
That's literally the modern day equivalent of what this is like. This is like if a director was super hot and he got fired from like a really interesting space movie, you know, like that's just made them billions of dollars. 2 of these space movies that have made them billions of dollars. They fire him, and then he goes over to the competitor and starts doing their weird character movie. I mean, that's never going to happen, of course.
Well, it's a little bit different because he did go to the competitor. He didn't go to the competitor to give them
to put the competitor up and then start his own studio.
I'm going to go make movies with Josh Trank.
I'm going to go make Super 2.
Yeah.
Fuck all of you. Yeah. But yeah, so this was like a big ass deal. This was not just like in the comic book. This wasn't just like people hanging out on Wednesday in a comic book store going like, "Did you hear that they left?" This was like CNN. Like you said, was reporting, and then they started Image Comics.
And the Image Comics started as just sort of like a confederation of studios.
Right. Yeah.
The 2 big rules. When Image started was Image can't own anything except for its logo.
Right.
And the artists don't interfere with each other.
Yeah.
That was all Image was.
And it all got thrown out the window pretty quickly.
Well,
not pretty quickly. They got a few good years before they started dipping in each other's dip.
Yeah.
I don't need to hear about Todd McFarlane dipping and Rob Liefeld's dip anytime soon.
I mean, if there was a romantic angle, that would have been really...
Hey, Robbie, just so you know, I dipped in your dip.
You slept with my letterer? Well, no, I just hired him.
But also we slept together.
So, just so we're...
I drew you a quick sketch.
Well, but that's the thing. Before we get to that falling apart, we need to clarify that it continued to be a big deal when they started to put out comics.
It was huge.
People bought them by the truckload.
Yeah.
Not just the speculators. There were plenty of speculators because these were the #1 issues of, creator-owned comics by the biggest creators of the time.
Yep.
Buying them by the truckloads. But any comic fan at that time wanted to see what was going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, this was a huge deal. This is a whole new comic book universe.
Well, it was easily the most exciting thing to happen in comics in many years. Like, probably since, I don't know, Watchmen and Dark Knight coming out, you know? Like...
And the titles that were coming out, Youngbloods, Spawn,
Savage Dragon, Shadowhawk.
Shadowhawk,
huge, well, what we would consider huge hits now, like, these are coming out and people are saying, hey, I like this.
Yeah, this is different, this is fresh.
Yeah. So it continues to be a big deal until, the things start to grind in the gears, like the fact that comic book artists are really good at being artists.
Right.
And they're really bad at being comic book executives.
Yes.
Hence the friction between comic book artists and executives.
Right, yeah. Well, and not to mention the fact that, again, they were in their early 20s, most of them. Like, young men without business experience. They're just good at drawing, which is great.
So,
you're handing them multi-million-dollar checks. And they're 20. You know what I mean?
Right. And also probably handing them other stuff, like after, appearances and conventions and stuff, like women and drugs. And
every #1 issue that was a signing series, a circuit. And so, the first issues come out, and then the second issues come out, and people are ordering them up, and then wait, where's that third issue? Where is it? You know what? Cut it from my pull box.
Right. Yeah.
And
waited long enough.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, all these retailers stop ordering because by the time they get the issues, no one wants to buy them anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And so sales start to dip. And while this is happening, there's internal strife because rule number 2 was no interfering. But as we'll see, all the creators sort of had different interpretations of both rules.
Yeah.
you know?
Right.
They're
So
more like guidelines.
yeah. So I think the big one was between Liefeld and McFarlane. Their studios hiring off of each other. The big one was McFarlane hired a letterer that Liefeld said was exclusive. Was supposed to be hired exclusive to him.
Okay. Which one was his? Because they had different imprints, right? Like there's Shadowline
there's
and Top Cow.
I have them here.
Silvestri's.
There's Todd McFarlane Productions, big
Right.
shock. There's Wildstorm, which is Jim Lee.
Yeah.
Highbrow, which is Eric Larson.
Okay.
Shadowline, which is Jim Valentino.
Okay.
Top Cow is Mark Silvestri,
Yeah.
and then Rob Liefeld, Extreme Studios. Of course, it's called Extreme. Studios. Yeah.
Yes. Well, and
To be fair, though, in 1992, that's what you call a comic book company.
well,
That's true.
that's
Yeah.
what Rob
Going to
Liefeld calls anything. Because at the same time,
Yeah.
he was also running Maximum Studio, which was not part of Image.
Right. Yeah.
And that caused problems because, anytime he did something that promoted both the Extreme Studio and Maximum Studio, people were like, well, no, come on.
Yeah.
You can't straddle both horses.
Yeah. You can't double dip in my dip.
Yeah, you can't double dip in my dip. And so they got in fights because they were hiring artists off of each other.
Yeah.
Because they were attracting talent.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Your boss is an artist, knows what you're going through.
Yeah. And he's also like the biggest artist in this entire industry too.
Yeah.
And he wants you to work for him on a cool indie book with basically no editorial input. Yeah, you'll sign up for that. But then also the other giant of the industry wants you to do it for him too.
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna sneak around that back door.
Yeah.
You're gonna go take a peek what's going on over there.
Yeah. You're gonna double dip your dip.
Get all up in that dip. Stay away from my dip. Sorry, I cut you off.
No. I was just saying. So as those conflicts start happening, between the sales and the conflicts, Image starts to go into decline a little bit.
Yeah.
They have to hire a manager, an executive director, whose job is literally to direct the executives.
Okay. Well, and before that, it was like Jim Valentino, I think, was sort of like a ringleader for them. Is that right?
No, he came later.
That was different. Okay.
Well, who was the older?
That's
Valentino's
Valentino.
older, and
Okay, so that was a totally different phase of it that I'm thinking of.
yeah,
Okay,
that comes later, and it's he does some real cool stuff.
Yeah.
But right now, like the executive director position is literally to tell them to get their pages out on time and to quit bickering like little children.
Yeah.
Like
because all the hookers and the drugs go away when you don't make money, boys.
And this starts to even things out. I forget at what point the big three or a couple of them leave. I forget at what point. Because in 1997, that's when Jim Valentino takes over as executive director.
Okay.
And that's when cool things start happening.
Yeah.
Because his whole philosophy was, if it's a good book, let's print it.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Up until then, it was superheroes.
Right. Yeah.
And he was the one that says comics don't need to be just superheroes.
Right.
Our comics don't need to be just superheroes. And he gave a lot of people opportunities. That didn't make money.
Right, yeah. As many really fucking good things do.
Yeah. There were Eisner Award winners, very, very critically good stuff. Powers came out of this era. That's where Brian Michael Bendis got his start.
Well,
that's where his career got big.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. He started
That's before.
Image, though,
that's before he went to Marvel.
Right.
This is before he wrote every book that's on the shelf.
Right. Yeah.
Twice over.
Yeah, he had done like Sam and Twitch for a minute.
Yes.
And then, then he had the idea for Powers.
And actually, that was after Powers. After Powers and Sam and Twitch. Then he went to Marvel, and that sort of created a rift between him and Todd McFarlane,
Right.
because Todd McFarlane had asked him to come write for one of his books. But Brian Michael Bendis doesn't write Todd McFarlane books. Like it was Spawn.
Oh, it was
yeah,
Spawn.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
I think it was a Spawn or a Spawn spinoff.
Yeah.
Sam and Twitch probably didn't he do like Sam?
He did Sam and Twitch, but this was after that.
Okay.
So he's like, I wasn't really feeling that book, so I went and I wrote Spider-Man instead.
That was my understanding of like why he did Sam and Twitch in the first place, anyways, is because he wasn't really that into Spawn, but he was like, oh, but what about these detective guys?
Well, yeah, but anyway, he slighted McFarlane because he turned down a McFarlane book to go write the book that McFarlane left to start Image.
Right.
And he's like, in retrospect, I can see how he saw that as an insult.
Yeah. It wasn't intended that way.
But yeah, but my point is, this was the Valentino era.
Yeah, right.
Where we're getting Bendis's, we're getting cool stuff. And then Larson decides, well, but we need to make money.
Right. Yes.
So he takes over and starts cranking out some more superheroes, some more
of the obvious stuff.
Obvious stuff, the more steady sellers. And I think he was actually the one that did The Walking. No.
It was Valentino that hired Kirkman for sure.
Yeah, Kirkman. But Kirkman was brought in by Larson. Because Kirkman gave Larson a ride to the airport at a convention, but he didn't know where the airport was.
Yeah, after the convention, he just spotted him and was like, "Hey, how are you doing? Oh, I'm good. What are you up to? Going to the airport? Oh, I've got a car. You want me to take you?"
And drove around with him, and
getting in the car of a comic book fan is a good way to get yourself killed as a comic creator,
or at least to just be flayed and like them wear your skin and shit.
This was the early '90s. We all craved it.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's the price of fame.
Yeah. So he ended up bringing Kirkman in, and Kirkman tried to pitch his zombie book, and Valentino was like, zombie books don't sell.
Right.
So Kirkman's like, well, it's actually a zombie book about aliens.
Yeah.
It turns out the zombies are alien invasion.
Yeah.
He basically pitched Plan 9 from outer space.
Yeah. Well, and Valentino's like, all right, well, we'll give you 5 issues.
Yeah.
That's not too painful.
Right, yeah.
And then 5 issues in, Larson's like, hey, there's no aliens in this. Kirkman says, well, I lied.
Yeah.
And Valentino's like, hey, this isn't a zombie book. It's about a father and son trying to make it against impossible odds.
Yeah.
If you had told me that.
Right, yeah. If you'd have told me that, I would have hired him on the spot. It would have been fine. But instead he had to lie about aliens and shit.
Lied 3 times, as Valentino will say anytime he tells his story.
Yeah, because he kept on coming back to him like, when are the aliens Oh, yeah, they'll come in, you'll see. Yeah, there's a bunch of little pieces if you string them together.
So, but Larson bringing them in was part of the, thought behind, hey, let's make this more commercially successful.
Yeah.
There was some bad blood for a little bit between Larson and Valentino because Larson took over. But then eventually, did it go straight from Larson to Stevenson?
I think so, yeah.
Because Stevenson was sort of the happy medium.
Right.
He was like, let's do any book as long as we can make some money off of it.
Yeah.
And he was also the one who's like, well, let's do any book so long as it's a creator that's really good.
Right, yeah, he showed up with like sort of a short list of people that he wanted to get, I think.
Yeah. He said the only person on my short list that I couldn't get was Alan Moore.
That's right, yeah. Yep.
Which is not surprising.
Yeah, no one can get Alan Moore.
Well, but he did write for them at some point, right? Was this after he already worked
Supreme.
for them? Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Supreme
Yeah.
But
that was before.
Yeah.
Stevenson went on, and Alan Moore had gone more into his madness.
Right. Yeah. Well, and also just like whether he actually was screwed or just perceived what was going on as him getting screwed. Like I think his defenses were so high by that point in his career. There's like, nah, I just don't trust enough people in this industry.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So, but yeah. So yeah, he had a list. I don't remember anybody else on the list. I remember. Oh yeah, it was okay. So he wanted
Reed.
Brian Reed.
Not Reed. The other one that starts with an R.
Well, I remember he wanted Brian K. Vaughan. He wanted Fraction. He wanted Matt Fraction.
Yes.
Shit, I forget who else.
Reed Redders. He writes a big book. I should know this. If I walk out there, his books are going to be on the shelf.
First name Reed?
Your first name could be Reed.
I'm not sure.
He's on their website in like 3 places. This is embarrassing.
It's one of those brain fart things that happens.
The amount of stuff that you've already just had.
Yeah,
off the
right,
top of
exactly.
Your head, it's totally fine.
Yeah, you've got plenty of credit now.
Oh, good. I'll be quiet.
How do you spell it? Is it R-E-E-D?
If I knew how to spell it, I'd probably know how to say it.
Yeah, and also what you worked on.
I think it's R-E-I-D.
R-E-I-D?
Yeah. Or, just go to the Image website and click on creators. He's like the top one.
Is he?
Oh, top of the page, I mean.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
Oh, okay.
No, BKV's the top right now.
Yeah, right, yeah. That would make sense, I guess.
Yeah.
But so there are a handful of people that, like, still today are putting out some pretty successful stuff that were on his list, I guess, that he was trying to get.
Well,
everyone
had
Morrison and people like that.
Huh?
I think he also brought in Grant Morrison. Is that
yes
at that time?
Well, because he had his list, but he went around to all the other partners that were still in and said, like, "What's your list? What's your list?" He was the only one that didn't have his list completed.
Rick Remender.
Oh, Rick Remender.
I was so close.
Oh yeah.
How could you? I said read R something. How could you guys get
Rick
Remender out of that?
Yeah, so Remender. Well, I'm trying to think of what he was, because he was when he first did Fear Agent. That was over at Dark Horse, I think. So, but yeah, he's done. Yeah, he's definitely gotten bigger.
Kieran Gillen.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Well, they got Ed Brubaker.
Right.
Ed Brubaker.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm,
yeah, which is my like go-to comic book.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, it's weird because like Jason knows that I'm like all up on the Ed Brubaker, Sean Phillips creative team.
Yeah.
So I've read Kill or Be Killed, I've done the Fade Out, and I'm doing Fatale right now. But I just love everything they put out. But I've been like a huge fan of Ed Brubaker since like I was a young like comic book reader, because he did Batman: The Man Who Laughs, which I fucking loved when I was a kid. It's still really good. But I'm just saying, like, when you're a kid, you're like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And then he did Daredevil, which was a great run. You know, like Ed Brubaker is like my top creator of anything.
Yeah.
You know. Sorry, I didn't mean to intercut that.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think you undercut anything.
Yeah. Well, I don't cut anything on here because I don't edit. So whatever's said is staying in.
Yeah, I mean, like that part where we blew past Liefeld getting You Can't Fire Me, I Quitted.
Oh, right.
We got to go back to that because the whole disillusion of the original is like the most... I find the most interesting part of Image Comics history because it's a bunch of people. It's like almost like Citizen Kane in the comic book field, you know what I mean? Where it's just like a bunch of people who are just, the power got to them, you know?
Sure, yeah.
And like, I guess like, what was great was I was in the Image Revolution documentary, they were talking about how like, Rob Liefeld would just be spending his money on like frivolous shit. He's like, I'm gonna get a race car with Youngblood painted on it, and I'm gonna park it outside the offices, you know. But then after a while, people started needing to get paid, and they're like, Mr. Liefeld, I need a few more pages because I need to eat this month. And he's just like, I don't have it because they just like spent they would have like a actor dressed up as Chapel come and like visit the studios for a day or something. It's like, what the fuck are you spending this on? You know what I mean? That's sort of like smart people, or people that have any idea about business at all, or people that are over the age of 25.
Sure.
get handed large amounts of money, and they go, well, most of this is going away, and I'm not touching it.
Right.
You know what I mean? 'Cause you need
most of this is going up my nose.
Yeah.
Or on my D.
You need a. I mean, they probably got both of those for free with how popular.
Eventually,
they are.
yeah, that's true.
I mean, I would say the opposite of eventually. More so at the beginning.
right at the beginning.
Yeah, less so when
eventually implies that there was any left, eventually.
I think, like, the bottom point would be Death of Superman, like, when everyone just quit buying comic books, period.
Like, alright, that's it.
I remember reading a Superman issue after the Death of Superman, like, right after he was resurrected.
You were the one?
Yeah. I have a lot of 90s Superman comics.
So do the speculators.
I think I bought them off a speculator for like $40 for the whole box.
Oh, for the whole box?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's literally a long box of like a year or two worth of Superman stories, and they're not bad either.
Yeah, right.
They're not like terrible comics. They're fine. Yeah. But I remember there's a scene of like Superman like rescuing like a ship or something, and he's pulling it by the anchor, and he says like, oh, my red cape and chains, I wouldn't want to spawn a rumor of a new superhero. And I remember reading that, and even in 7th grade I was like, fuck you.
Well, and it's interesting is because Superman was one of the reasons Image was created is the creators of
Right.
Superman
Yeah.
never got paid
got
for
royally and repeatedly fucked.
Yeah. So, these were creators who saw the same things being done to them, you
Right.
know, and
they're like, we're not gonna wait till we're fucking 75
Right,
years old
yeah,
with
fucking,
health problems.
fucking 60 years, 50 years, 60 years later, this shit is still happening where these fucking corporate fat cats are just pumping and dumping these artists and creators for their ideas and then just leaving them in the fucking gutter. Like, it's fucking shameful.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I prefer the creator-owned stuff because they can do whatever the fuck they want. But
Yeah.
it's also kind of nice that like you don't see like backpacks with like Invincible on them because
Okay, but
because
even if it was at Marvel, you wouldn't see that because no one would buy it. Like, you'd see it in the $2 bin.
Yeah, right.
No. I mean, it's just nice not to see these characters in comics like have like their logo slapped on everything because
Yeah.
like the creators own them and there's a little bit more integrity there as
Yeah.
opposed to like we're just gonna slap this.
I don't know. I'd like a Paper Girls messenger bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was just thinking of like all the merch that I would totally buy.
Yeah.
If it was, yeah.
I mean, I
like-
would too, but I'm
yeah.
just saying it.
Or even just what I have bought. Like, I bought the, Saga has enamel pins. I have all of them.
Imagine like a Saga TV that was on like a humanoid frame.
Dude, I was just thinking the other day how, like, I hope robots keep developing, like, at a faster rate, because I totally want a Prince robot, or, Prince 4
Yeah.
robot to, like, I don't know, folds my laundry or whatever the fuck. Like, it doesn't even have to do anything impressive. I just want it to be a robot with a TV for a head. That'd be fucking great. I'm into that idea. But yeah, I've got a couple. Yeah, I've got a Saga shirt. I've got a couple Saga shirts and pins, and yeah. So I buy their merch. If they put out more, I'd probably also get that.
I'm just saying you're talking about the corporate fat cats and everything, where they just take these concepts for money. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's in this business to
Of
make
course,
money,
of course,
but
yeah,
at the
yeah.
same time, it's sort of like. It's not like, well, we need 1,000 issues of Kill or Be Killed because it's selling well. It's
Right.
like they have their story and they tell it and then they kind of move on.
Yeah, and they don't immediately make a Kill or Be Killed cartoon and then market action figures and
Kill or Be Killed
and
babies.
Yeah, and breakfast cereals based on the characters in the cartoon.
Get your Kill or Be Killed Funko Pops,
Right. Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, yeah, they haven't done that yet. That's like one
Not
of
for
the
Kill or Be Killed.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of Saga Funko
Yeah,
Pops.
Saga. They've gone that far.
I mean, if they get big enough, everything gets a Funko Pop.
Probably, yeah.
Sex Criminal will probably never get Funko Pops.
I wouldn't be surprised.
They
at some
would be
point.
the best Funko Pops. Fucking a cum angel Funko Pop, like glows in the dark or
Like,
something.
they'd all have to be blind boxes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean,
like when you buy the issues.
when you buy the triple X cover, I'm doing air quotes around triple X because it's like they're like single X at best. But
You're like, these were supposed to be way more perverted.
I mean they're weird, but they're not like that offensive. Like, yeah, I don't know, they're not showing like pornographic images. There's like some nudity on some of them. That's about it.
Well, shit. If only we lived in an age where we could just go on our phones and look that shit up.
That's not the point. My point is that they're being marketed as triple X covers.
Yeah, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, and now it's
people who buy a triple X cover and they end up with sex criminals aren't going to be disappointed.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not
like.
I'm just saying they could call it. Well, yeah. Well, now I get the joke. Okay, I'm just saying that when I first bought it, I was like, oh, cool. There's going to be like some actual like porn, because that's some of the factors of the series itself is getting into sexy stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, they don't do that so much with these so-called triple X covers.
Look,
But they're all really good, and I have them all, so I can't really say too much.
Yeah.
Not actually complaining. Just
Yeah, I think that'd be cool if they did crossovers with like Spider-Man.
hmm.
Like, imagine like him shooting his web to freeze time.
Wait, well, yeah, and then he could. I wonder if his webs, if he's using web shooters, I feel like he wouldn't be able to use them in Cum World.
Has he been using web shooters since 2004?
I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm not sure if he is, because if he's using bioweb shooters, then he should be fine, probably, since obviously like any other bodily fluids and anything that's a part of his biology, I think would work. So he could still swing around, but yeah, that could work. I mean, obviously, I feel like Sailor Moon, since I just mentioned the Cum Angel, I feel like Sailor Moon is an obvious potential crossover.
Yeah.
Batman
Batman trying to solve the sex crimes.
Yeah, right. It's like, what was the murder weapon, Commissioner Gordon? Big black dildo.
I need to read this series.
Yes.
I haven't read it yet.
Well, it will be creator owned.
Yeah, you'll be putting Matt Fraction's kids through college.
Good. But yeah, so it kind of moved into a more creator-owned spot where they literally could just do whatever the fuck they want.
And that was mostly after Kirkland.
After Robert Kirkman?
Yeah, after Robert Kirkman. Because he was the second huge success. I mean, when Image started, they had their huge superhero success.
Spawn, Savage Dragon, Youngblood.
But a lot of artists were like, well, sure, Rob Liefeld can pull it off. Jim Lee can pull it off.
Yeah.
I'm, Joe Schmo working my ass off over here at Marvel. I'm not going to be able to just create a comic book and support myself. Kirkman blowing the world up with The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
With a zombie story, which those zombie stories don't sell.
That wasn't untrue. I mean,
no, and that's the thing is like that wasn't untrue.
Popular. Yeah.
But he's proving like you can be creator owned, artist, a genre that doesn't necessarily sell, but if you're doing good, passionate work, you can make it. He was the American dream of it.
Right.
That's why he got brought on to be a partner, the first partner since the founding.
Yeah.
Because his story was the one that sold all the great artists that came after him with their own series. We wouldn't have any of these great books if people were still scared. If people... Image flipped the script on it. It went from you were an indie artist working your way towards Marvel and DC to you're a Marvel and DC artist working your way to your own series.
Right, yeah. Which is of course in many ways a lot more appealing, editorial, not being on your case like Andy said, or also just being able to be like, all right, cool. So like when this gets optioned, for a TV series or a movie or a video game or a fucking app on your phone or whatever, like
which Image was at the forefront of. Before we had the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we had Saturday cartoons that featured a different Image comic title every morning. Savage Dragon, Youngblood.
I've
seen the Savage Dragon cartoon, like a lot of episodes of it too.
Wildcats had a
cartoon. Spawn has a Spawn had an HBO cartoon.
Right.
That's really fucking good too. Yeah.
And obviously the Spawn movie.
Yeah.
There were Spawn video games. Spawn is really the one that
they really just slapped the logo on everything.
Thanks. I'm referring to more recent things.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, the Spawn is really the one that kind of like made it out of that early, like that all that early. I mean, Savage Dragon is still going, but it's still
it's not Spawn. Spawn is a household name now.
Exactly. Spawn. When people if someone hears Image Comics, they're probably gonna think of Spawn as like the image, like in the same way that people hear Marvel and maybe they think of Spider-Man. He's not necessarily. I mean, he's a huge character, of course, but it's like, oh, why not Captain America? Why not Wolverine? Well, because it's Spider-Man.
It's in DC, Superman, Batman. That's just like how it goes. But like Spawn was like a fucking media franchise that came out of this for like a little while, and then of course people saw the Spawn movie. They played some of the Spawn video games. They're like, well, fuck this. But I remember Todd McFarlane saying something. He was like, "Well, I tried to build 4 pillars." He said he had 4 pillars that he wanted to build. He wanted comic books, animation, or something on TV, something in the theaters, and then something with video games. Like he said that would be like he could build a media franchise on that.
Yeah.
Didn't really follow through with it.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting to see like this creator-owned character like being the subject of like this like $100 million movie or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, and it's getting a reboot, isn't it?
Yes.
It's been getting a reboot for like the last 15 years.
I thought it was for real this time. I thought they had actors and
I think it's the most for real it's been in the last 20
it's
years.
happening. They have a production company now and everything, which I'm actually kind of excited about because if we're talking about like creator independence and everything, Todd McFarlane is working with Blumhouse. Which is basically
the Image Comics of.
Well, no, we were talking about like 824 or whatever. Yeah. But like Blumhouse is one of those ones. They put out a lot of shitty movies, like a lot of shitty just teenage horror movies. But they also put out really fucking good movies too. Like they did. Jason Blum produced Whiplash, but then like Blumhouse, and just even in terms of horror, because that's what they're primarily.
Paranormal Activity 5.
Exactly. No, but they
well,
put
yeah.
out,
So this is what this
Which
means.
is
They
the
make-
Hellraiser 3 of the series.
Yeah.
well, which means that they make some really good movies, but they also make movies that make money.
that's why Jason Blum is a smart man,
Yeah.
because he, no matter what he puts out, it makes money. But all these like more like crappy horror movies and stuff that just come out in January, they still make money, and that's what he uses to fund movies like Get Out and Split, and they did the new Halloween, which was pretty,
Oh yeah.
which was pretty creator driven. I think I saw it, and I really thought the personality shined through. But my point is that Todd McFarlane is working with somebody that, for better or worse, will let him do whatever he wants.
Yeah, and seems to have a similar vision of like what creation, what
Yeah.
creativity should look like.
Yeah. Well, also just the idea that this is a horror centric studio, the fact that Spawn is getting made there, I'm like, okay, they're making Spawn into a horror movie. Like, that's what it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not some shitty like, because that first one, it came out in that era of like everybody's trying to imitate Tim Burton's Batman,
Right. Yeah.
and the only one that succeeded is The Crow.
Yeah. Right.
And then the other ones, you ended up with The Shadow, and you ended up with Spawn. You know what I mean?
The Phantom with Billy Zane.
Yeah,
Rocketeer. Disney did Rocketeer, which
that's good.
that's a good movie. It's it's not necessarily Tim Burton's Batman, but it's a good movie.
But they're all trying to imitate this like 1940s kind of aesthetic of like that Tim Burton had with his Batman movie,
Yeah.
and the only one that really succeeded was The Crow, which I'm not saying it copied Tim Burton's Batman,
Sure, yeah.
but it's definitely like, we're gonna do the darker take on these characters and
Yeah.
shit.
Well, I don't think there's a darker take on The Crow.
yeah.
Well, the original idea for it was they were gonna have Michael Jackson play The Crow, and it was gonna be a musical. And J.O.
shit.
Barr laughed his ass off when they pitched it to him until he realized that they were serious.
And then Captain EO made
Yeah.
millions of people feel joy again at Disneyland.
There's no such thing as feeling joy at
I
Disneyland, in my book.
don't know. Captain EO is pretty entertaining.
There is such thing as feeling joy at Disneyland, because once a duck came up to me, and I gave it an almond, and it did a little dance.
Okay.
And every time I gave it an almond, it did this very, I don't know how it was choreographed.
Yeah.
It's some sort of self-trained dancing duck. I don't know how to define joy other than that.
Yeah, right. That's and this wasn't a cartoon duck.
No,
And this
it was a real quack quack.
Okay. And this
duck.
wasn't the time that you took peyote and went to Disneyland.
You said the time there.
One of those times that you took some drugs.
But no, that was cool.
Yeah, that's pretty magical. And
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
That's
impressive.
I can't confirm or deny whether they train their ducks to do this.
right. Yeah.
But I
exactly.
suspect not.
I mean, I could see somebody, like in the little dance studio training their ducks. Like, if you want to work at Disneyland, you got to be able to shake those tail feathers.
Either that or you're going to be in the pond at Cal Poly Pomona. Choose one or the other.
And that's how Image got made.
Yeah.
That's
That's where Image
the
Comics
story
came
of
from.
Image.
They're still working on that Youngblood movie.
Who is?
Rob Liefeld.
Why?
I don't know. He just sold all of his shit to Netflix.
Someone tell him to stop that.
Because Rob Liefeld's Rob Liefeld. You know how much he talks about how Mark Miller copied him for selling all his comic rights to Netflix?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, you mean just the biggest fucking entertainment production company out there right now? Oh yeah, that's a
Yeah,
real
well,
copy.
Liefeld said, "Oh, I was in talks with them first, because Liefeld has to do everything first. I don't want this to devolve into shitting on Liefeld,
Sure, yeah.
but
yeah.
That's
He's
the
been
thing
shat
is
on
like,
enough.
well, that's the thing is though, like you can't. He brought a lot of this ethos to it because early on these studios were all competing with each other, and
Yeah.
it started out as friendly competition,
Right,
like
yeah.
pushing each other further. But it did get pretty. Liefeld has to Liefeld, or else you're gonna get Liefeld.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing that I don't think we really talked about is that these guys had some egos on them. Like,
Yeah.
not
Oh,
all
yeah.
of them necessarily, but there were big egos amongst these dudes.
And succeeding didn't help.
right, exactly. Yeah. That's If you want to like deflate your ego, having just fucking unmitigated success is not gonna help.
Well,
with
because
that.
they did like basically the wildest thing ever. They threw a Hail Mary on the 2-yard line,
Yeah.
and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
And that it was success on top of success.
Yeah.
And then they had to
like get their heads out of the clouds
Yeah.
and actually like hunker down and do work.
Yeah, and you know, and that was the thing is, you know, like as financially they started failing, you know, Lee and McFarlane with stuff started sneaking back to Marvel and DC to do some work and all that. But Liefeld's conflicts eventually led to the others conducting a vote whether or not to kick him out of the studio.
Oh yeah. Well, that was the rule: was they had to vote,
and then
wait
a month.
Yeah, wait
to cool off, and then vote again. And they were gathering to vote for the second time, and Liefeld faxed him his resignation.
Right. Yeah.
You can't fire me. I quit.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, and it had to be unanimous also. It wasn't
right. It had to be
majority vote was unanimous.
Unanimous aside from the one they're kicking out.
Right. Yeah. Obviously.
And you know the lawyers were all very concerned. Like he sent his resignation. Don't vote.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You can't complete the vote.
Well, I mean, it's different. Him withdrawing as opposed to them kicking him out because once he withdraws, you know, he's out. You don't owe him anything.
Yeah. So he sold his stuff to Netflix and expects them to do what with it? It's like, what is he?
Comic books. Anything that's a comic book is getting made right now.
It's the 90s too, man.
I'm just saying, I'm not watching a Youngbloods cartoon, okay? Like,
yeah,
you're not.
yeah, you will.
You're sitting there. BoJack Horseman's next season isn't out for 4 months. All right, you just finished the Ozarks. You're sitting around. Castlevania's never gonna have another season again because they're animating it a frame a year. All right, and Youngbloods pops up. You're not gonna be like, hey. Let's see that.
I mean, let's see
the first cartoon shot entirely above the knees.
I might just see if I can rewatch C-Lab again or something.
Oh, that's true. That'd be a good call.
Right. Yeah, I'll just do the Adam Reed run. C-Lab, Frisky Dingo, Archer.
Is Frisky Dingo on streaming?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It totally should be though. Why is it not?
You can get it on DVD.
Yeah.
I remember I had to show a friend it, so I signed back up for DVDs for a month.
Nice.
To get the Frisky Dingo DVDs.
Right on.
Because it's Frisky Dingo.
Yeah. I mean, I'd imagine that probably some people have it on like YouTube or something like that. But yeah, why is it not? Because it's Adult Swim, just like all the other stuff. So you can watch C-Lab and. Maybe you can watch Frisky Dingo.
Archer's on there.
Yeah, Archer and C-Lab are both on there. I wonder if he had somebody else that worked with him that didn't want to give him rights for it or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, Frisky Dingo's fucking great.
Yeah.
It was great when they first started this too. They tried to do a shared universe of all their.
They never went whole hog on that one.
They went very briefly.
We just the other day looked at that Savage Dragon that had Super Patriot in it.
Yeah.
Is that just
no, that's an Eric Larson.
Oh, it is okay.
Yeah, it's just a supporting character in the Savage Dragon universe.
The Savage Dragon universe.
The Savage Dragon, the SDU, the SDEU is quite expansive, featuring characters such as Dart. Mighty Man.
Imagine if they kept that up and like the Youngbloods go to Bitch Planet.
That'd be fucking great. I just feel like so many of these characters run into each other and be like, "Holy shit, you stole my gimmick."
I mean, there's shit like Shadowhawk fighting like Vanguard and shit like that. And did anybody actually read these? Has anybody actually read any of these?
I'm sure I've got like probably 2 or 3 Shadowhawk number 1s, like among other Shadowhawk issues. I'm pretty sure I've never actually read them though.
Really? Because I have. Because I got the thing is my experience with these is I got them all out of like 25-cent bins. Like all of them I got out of. I don't think I've ever paid more than $1 for any of these comic books.
That's the way to do it.
Yeah, and I was getting them when I was in like 6th grade. So they were great.
Yeah, which is a good time to get those.
Yeah, they were great for when I was in 6th grade, especially stuff like the Savage Dragon and Spawn and even Youngblood. I was like, even at 6th grade, I was like, this is not good. This is trash. But like, I would argue that like when they first started, they weren't bad comics.
No, yeah,
they had some good ideas.
They definitely had some good ideas. I think most of their problems are that when they started this, comics were still very anchored to superheroes.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always been sort of like independent comics that weren't quite that, but there were no independent comics as big as Image.
Right. Yeah.
So, it was first and second superhero, third still superhero.
Yeah. It was like you had to keep going down and down. You had to like talk to the guy in the comic book store, like read it in a fanzine or something.
Yeah,
you
right.
know?
Oh, and then there's like Dave Sim doing Cerebus over here, or like
Yeah. It's like you kind of had to hear about it from
Mhm.
somebody. It wasn't like you're gonna go there and find Cerebus on the wall or
Right.
anything.
probably not.
There's actually a Spawn issue where he crosses over with Cerebus.
Yeah, it's like number 9 or something. It's
Yeah.
pretty early.
Dave Sim wrote it. And so that's great. I remember, like, literally before they even got into the double digits, Todd McFarlane brought in, like, 4 guest writers.
Well, and issue number 9 of Spawn caused some big problems because he brought in Neil Gaiman.
Oh, yeah,
right.
yeah.
And Neil Gaiman created the character Angela,
Mhm,
an angel bounty hunter trying to kill Spawn,
mhm.
and some others.
Mm.
Medieval Spawn,
Um,
and some...
What's the guy? Cagliostro?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Neil Gaiman's like, okay, I'm writing for a company where you own what you create. I
Yeah.
created these characters,
Right.
therefore I own them.
Mhm.
Todd McFarlane says, no, this is
Mhm.
my company, my book, I own
yeah,
them.
Right.
So that was a big conflict.
Mhm.
And then Todd McFarlane says, hey, all right, well, I'll trade you the rights to those characters for Miracle Man. And
Oh,
Neil
yeah.
Gaiman's like, yeah, sure,
Mhm.
sign me up. And, the trade happens, and he's like, wait a minute, do you own Miracle Man?
Yeah.
And Todd McFarlane says, it's complicated, but you now own my share of Miracle Man.
Yeah.
Once that all gets sorted out.
Yeah, which is wrapped up in red tape and shit.
So Gaiman turned around and sold Angela to Marvel.
Right, and Miracle Man also.
He didn't sell Miracle
Oh, well,
Man.
yeah, license it to them, I should say.
Well, he said if you can figure out Miracle Man,
Yeah.
do it.
Mhm.
One of the books he wrote for them, he said just donate my salary to the legal fund to solving the
Oh,
Miracle
yeah.
Man question.
Nice.
Because it's owned by a dead company
Right, yeah,
and
Eclipse.
several others.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Wait, they're not putting Warrior Magazine out anymore?
so it's this whole mess but he just loves Miracle Man so much.
Yeah, right, yeah. So much that he's probably never going to come back and finish his run on it. Which apparently he had ideas for it. I mean, I imagine there's some dusty old, draft of a script for the last, 2 or 3 issues of The Silver Age. For
It's
Miracle
Neil
Man.
Gaiman. He's still writing it. The pages will be done in the morning.
Right,
Call me
yeah.
in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't wake up in the morning. Well, he didn't used to. I don't know if he does
It's a
now.
different time zone.
Right, yeah.
Did I say the morning? I meant the evening.
Yeah.
Call
Yeah.
me later for the
Mor-
pages.
morning my time, which is evening your time. Better. Let's just continue.
Go
this
ahead and
next
push
week.
the printing back a month.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we were talking about, like, it's all rooted in superheroes. This kind of reminds me of the idea of, like, what Vertigo Comics initially was. I mean, what it still is. But when Karen Berger took over, and she
Yeah.
was like,
Well,
well,
Vertigo's a little different now than it was then, though. Yeah.
yeah. But, I mean, just like when Karen Berger took over
Mm-hmm.
and the British invasion, she was like, just
Hell
do...
yeah.
I mean, they don't... It didn't have the same policy of, like, you own what you create
No,
or anything.
yeah,
but it was the just do whatever the fuck you want.
Right. Yeah. Creatively, it was pretty similar. To
Yeah. And so those are, I wouldn't say the Vertigo titles of that era are necessarily rooted in superheroes, although Sandman, Swamp Thing,
Well, yeah.
Constantine, they're all
Yeah,
very...
rooted is maybe not the way I
They're
put it.
character-driven, they're superheroic characters-driven books, though.
Yeah, they're like superhero adjacent.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Constantine, it's sort of like Constantine might not put on, like, a mask and fight crime,
Mhm.
but it's like, it's a fucking comic book that's following the adventures of a character with supernatural powers, and like it's literally like as close as you could get without calling him a superhero. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would necessarily categorize
It functions
that way.
the same
but it's-
way in media.
I
You know
would
what I
I would
mean?
almost call it more of a horror title,
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah, I mean, by
because
that-
it, it's not following one guy's adventures where he defeats everything. It's one guy trying to trick hell into leaving him alone long enough because he's ventured too far into realms of knowledge that he shouldn't touch, and also
Yeah.
he's an asshole.
Yeah,
Well,
and
just
while
like-
everyone around him dies,
Yeah,
just by
exactly.
being close to him.
I'm just saying, like, Constantine falls under the same thing as, like, maybe like Hellboy or the Goon, where it's sort
I
of like
wouldn't call either of them superheroes.
I'm not saying that they're superheroes, but
You
I'm
just did.
or I just did. They fall under the realm of just like it's a marketable character that we're following. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
But I
I don't
Well,
imagine there's
like-
a lot of books where you can't market the
No, but I'm just
subject.
saying. But I'm just saying it's one of those things where it's like the character is selling the book, no matter what.
Yeah,
you know what I
that's-
mean? And the way like nobody knows who the fuck Richard Fell is.
I do.
I'm just saying, like it's part of who's working on it and everything, and I'm not downplaying the creative teams of Vertigo. I'm just saying they were very much franchise-driven properties still.
I still, unfortunately, I still don't agree. Because, because Swamp Thing, it's not like Swamp Thing was this huge hit, so let's find somebody famous to write it, or find somebody to write it and make it really good, or whatever. I mean, because, there were a couple of costume superhero characters, but these are, I would say that the Vertigo stuff was more like it's adjacent to the DCU, because, Spawn does meet the Justice League, and Sandman meets, members of the Justice League as well.
And I would say, there's times where it does kind of blur. I mean, Swamp Thing did start as just sort of this body horror, exploring, like, what it's like to not be human. Even his antagonists were other, like, human-adjacent things. But he also kind of rode the line between, I'm a big green superhero,
he's super strong and muscular, but he's not a human. Yeah.
Like, and that was all writing on how well the writing was done. The good writers really explored the horror of what it is to be a Swamp Thing, and the others really played up how cool it was to be a Swamp Thing. It's the same thing with Constantine. A lot of it was like this horror of I'm doing what it takes to survive when I've ventured out of my depths, I'm allowing the people around me to die when I could prevent it all by just being self-sacrificing, but I can't bring myself to do that. But then there's also I'm gonna beat some people up.
Right, that's mostly, that sums up the superhero thing, generally. It's peace through having bigger muscles.
But I'm just saying, the British invasion wasn't come in here and create whatever the fuck you want. It was come in here and revamp these properties that which is what I'm saying. Is it's sort of
dig in our archives and find something that we don't care about or haven't used in a long time, or both, and make it really, really good. Make it your own. Yeah, and that's what they ended up doing.
Yeah, so that's why I'm saying the difference between Image is Image is just do whatever the fuck you want. Vertigo was more like take what we have and make it good.
Oh yeah,
but
definitely.
Creatively, they were able to do whatever the fuck they wanted.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, they were still owned by DC, so they couldn't do whatever they couldn't show Batman's penis or something like that. That would have been out of the question.
I know
at that time, but
not without a black label.
Right, but you can show a big blue dong from various angles in Watchmen.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
Well, because he created Dr. Manhattan too.
Right, yeah.
Well, created. Let's throw some quotes up there. He created all those.
Created asterisk. Well,
he threw a coat of paint on all of them.
Exactly. Which he did out of necessity. If they would have
made them better, I think.
If they would have let him use their characters to tell the Watchmen story, then it would have been those characters.
Well, I mean, work as well.
What if I make it my own?
Well, I mean, we've seen what he can do with other people's characters. Yeah. We've seen League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. We know he can do them well.
Right.
Even his killing joke and whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
And everything.
Yeah. He can use other people's characters, and we can all chuckle when he complains about people using his characters.
Yeah.
But I forget where we're going with this.
How you think he threw a fresh?
You said he created all of them. I just wanted to.
No. I know it was.
It's not like he when he was 16 years old, started writing in a notebook, the Watchmen, and just came up with characters. No, it's not exactly that. But like I've. Yeah, because he would have if he would have used DC characters if they would have allowed him to use DC characters. They just didn't, so he was like, all right, fine, I guess I'll just do what I was gonna do anyways, but call them something else.
I don't think it would have worked without obvious pre-established characters either.
Well, neither did DC.
I'm just saying, it's not as cool if it's the Question and Blue Beetle. I like the idea of Rorschach, Night Owl, and it's contained in this 12-issue series where they exist with their own history and everything. I like the idea of.
No, I think it worked out really well, and I think it allowed him to explore more than he, possibly could have. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, he could have just done the same thing he did with the Extraordinary Gentleman. It's like, okay, well now Batman has ED. What are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in the same way that he paralyzed Barbara Gordon. Okay, I mean, I'm just doing this over here. You guys can do whatever you want. This is what I did in my story. Use it or don't. I don't give a shit. And they were like, oh yeah, we like that.
That's what I'd like to see come out of. Okay, because this is gonna be sacrilegious to say, but I could not give a fuck about canon. The older I get, the less of comic book canon do I really care about. I love the idea of just take it, do whatever you want, and then the clock kind of resets when somebody else takes over or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I guess very loose continuity, but like continuity, the older I get, the more I read, the less continuity matters to me. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Well, I mean, like that's the thing is the superhero titles all have just so much continuity.
Yeah.
No matter what you add to it, it doesn't matter. It's lost in the ocean.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's why I like a lot of the Image creator-owned books. All that is because it doesn't. Any continuity that's added to it is by necessity important. You know, even the longer running books. I mean, Saga's what? How many issues in now? 50
something, I think. Yeah, it's
You know,
somewhere.
Walking
yeah,
Dead's
so-
like 180.
yeah,
or something.
180.
Right. Yeah.
So you know,
approaching
a couple
200.
years, it's you know, it's not Batman continuity, but
Yeah.
each book they put out, it has to be just as important as the first book.
Yeah.
Because it's their child. You know,
Right,
it's their story.
Mhm.
They're not going to move on to another book and have someone clean up their mess.
Right, yeah, exactly. And that's what I was thinking, is that's kind of a key thing, is that like the fact that it is just the one person doing the entire run of these creator-owned series, like that is important, because like you don't have the fact that these superhero comics have come out for so many years, and there have been so many different hands on them. It's really hard. Like you can't draw a very clean line through the entire history of these characters, because it's been going through different filters, through different lenses, different voices applied to it.
Well, that's what's fun about it too, is like picking and choosing and being like, oh, but back in the 70s, you know, this is happened this way, but now they've retconned it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I kind of like that's why I was so excited for like the DC Black label, which they immediately stomped on my nuts with my excitement for that, because apparently they're not doing it anymore. I think they still are.
They're still going to go forward, at least with the projects that they've mentioned already.
I just want 3 Jokers.
Yeah,
that sounds like fucking awesome.
Yeah, well, we'll see if Doomsday Clock ever finishes. Maybe Jeff Johns will take the time to make that as well.
Yeah, you never know. But I like the idea of like DC Black Label, where it's sort of like it's not in canon. We don't care. I mean, they immediately went back on that, but the initial pitch where they're just like, these guys can do whatever they want.
Yeah,
that's a lot more exciting to me than like trying to fit it into like some kind of established canon or anything. Yeah.
Well, I do think a well-established canon does add to a book.
Yeah.
If you pick up a Batman book and you don't need to know that he's an orphan and his parents died and then he took up a vigilante style, if you know all that already and they can just tell their story, the book benefits from that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you tell that story over and over again because you need to get the continuity just right, that's where the charm starts to wear off, or the polish starts to wear off.
Yeah.
I think that they can tell a lot of stories and just ignore whatever canon doesn't fit.
Yeah.
And I think that the possibility is still there. On the Marvel side, Superior Spider-Man has me very excited. I liked the original run. I like the current run now because it's a fresher Spider-Man idea that they've taken the time to like keep going with.
Yeah. They
And
figured out a way to make that still be a thing.
yeah, and it's it's a different take on Spider-Man, and it brings a lot of the history with it, but it's not chained by the history.
Exactly.
They get to make something that's just based on what you already know about Spider-Man plus.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's a really useful thing to be able to unchain yourself from fucking 60-ish years of continuity. Like that's a lot to have to keep track of, and to be fair, that stuff that's come before is part of what makes comics cool, is that you can be like oh, back in the 70s this thing happened, between Peter Parker and Spider-Man the Wrecking Crew or something like that, and you can draw from that and you can bring that back and make it relevant again and tweak it and change it a little bit and make it a new thing that's like fresh and exciting. That's kind of fun too, to be able to draw on their history. And if you don't have any continuity really between the first Spider-Man and Spider-Man #1 and Spider-Man 8-12 or whatever we're on now, like then that goes away. So but there's definitely a balance to be struck.
Even the creators of the comics today don't have the whole canon in grasp. I was at a panel with a bunch of X-Men authors, and someone walks up to ask a question and says, "I edit the X-Men page on Wikipedia," and all of them in unison said, "Thank you so much. You are the reason we're able to make books."
Yeah.
Because that's the thing, is they have to draw on the same resources we do to catch up with all this.
Right. I end up telling new readers that come here that a lot, because it's like, oh wow, it's issue 800 something like that. Do I need to start at 1 and read all of the 700 something? I'm like, no, like, I mean, they don't actually say that, but like some of them will be like, well, I want to read number 1. I'm like, dude, it's not Lord of the Rings. You don't have to read Fellowship, then Two Towers, then Return of the King. You can jump if you know that Batman is an orphan and now he dresses up like a bat to fight crime. You know everything you need to know. You know the bare minimum that you need to know to read a Batman comic and not be like, what the fuck is this?
Pick it up, a few months later, come back, start arguing about why Steve Buscemi would make the ultimate Alfred. Like,
yeah. You'll be hooked for life.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But I find that, like, casual, or this is kind of a random tangent, but I find that more, coming from someone that's 3 guys that are super huge fucking fans of comic books and, like, love to, like, pick apart everything and do it, I find that casual reading is the most fun.
Sure.
Well,
because,
yeah.
Because,
sorry.
No, it's fine, but there's some people that just, like, that just pour over every individual aspect of every issue that comes out ever and just drive themselves insane, you know? I find that, like, because, you know, this sounds dumb, but, like, my fandom is, like, unshakable. Like, I know I'm a fucking fan of this shit. Like, I know I'm into this. So when I say, like, I don't really care about what's going on in Superman lately, it doesn't mean I'm not a huge Superman fan.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that you've any less love for Superman than you've ever had in your life.
Well, yeah, you read it casually based on, and that's the best way to do it.
Well, and I think this ties into the you don't have to read issue number 1. If you pick up a Superman and you're going through it and you're like, what did I miss? Nothing. There just wasn't that much there.
Yeah.
If you're reading casually and you say, okay, well, I don't care, you're going to have a good time. If you're pouring over it and you're like, I need to know what's, not there, and it's just this void.
Yeah.
Is Cat Grant still working at the Daily Planet? Is it? Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's like a soap opera. It's fun to follow it, but at the same time, like...
And it does provide a contrast to books that have more depth. Like, and if you pick up, Kill or Be Killed, next to the Superman, you do need to know, everything that's going on.
Yeah.
You do need to dig deep into it and eat the meat. But that's the whole range. I mean, you're not just going to pick up, you're not necessarily just going to pick up one kind of book from the comic book store.
Right.
Generally
speaking.
As someone who has to set aside a hefty budget for it, there's just so much.
Yeah. You want some diversity in the types of stories.
The types of story, the weight of the story, and all that stuff. And I think that one of the things that independent comics, the reason I like them so much is because that's the whole well. You can get anywhere in that range. I do like, some big 2 titles, but they're going to be superhero stories. Yeah. They're not going to be super in depth.
Yeah.
And that's fine though.
Right. Yeah.
But sometimes people will come along and they will make a super deep story out of Batman or Superman or you know what I mean? And you can do that. It's just like you said, you described it as an ocean. It is an ocean of just like continuity that you're just being hit with, but you need to like kind of filter out, like, because here's the thing is like most issues of say Spider-Man, I would say like aren't necessarily like worth reading of the entire like run of the character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'd say that,
and you're talking about like various titles as well.
There's just like random where like you just pick up a.
I would have meant to seeking out to read.
Yes,
I think you're going to pick it up, at the story.
Right. Well, first off, comics take about 5 to 10 minutes to read. Most comic issues take me about 10 to 12 minutes to read. So you're not like wasting your time or anything. No. I'm just saying like to seek out to read. Yeah. You're not going to go, well, I need Web of Spider-Man number 2, 13 through 215.
I need all issues of Red Sonja Spider-Man 1 through 5, please.
Yeah, exactly.
You probably don't need sort of like, to read that.
Yeah, I mean, you can read Ultimate Spider-Man, and that one, that's like one of those ones where, I mean, granted it's Marvel, but it's still the Ultimate line, and like they were like, Bendis, do what you want.
Yeah.
And that one is one that you kind of have to read every single issue because it kind of builds upon. It is about this kid's life,
right?
And that's kind of what I prefer is like stuff like that, and again, out of canon stories. Because like again,
but you just said that it has a canon though, so
but it has a canon in itself.
Yeah,
it's. I think I get what you're saying. Like, there's gems that kind of come out of nowhere.
Like, because it's basically Brian Michael Bendis is building his own Spider-Man.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Which is what's interesting. I'm not saying you cannot have continuity between individual issues of a series.
And be good.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, it's kind of nice where it's like, Brian Michael Bendis, just tell the story of Peter Parker.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Well, one that surprised me recently was The Batman Who Laughs.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you look at that cover
Mhm.
and you're expecting Rob Liefeld's Batman, like you're you know, a very schlocky Batman.
Yeah.
I picked it up hoping for a good ride, and it's actually very well written.
Good.
There are good jokes in it. It's very self-aware.
Yeah.
But without being campy. It's not Deadpool as Batman. It's you know, Zack Snyder understanding that he is writing the Batman. One of them Snyder boys.
Yeah, right. Sorry, Scott.
Yeah,
it wasn't intentional.
Look, if Zack Snyder picked up the book, he would be able to make a shot-for-shot soulless remake of it like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's probably worse people to be compared to, I suppose, or confused for.
In terms of comic book movies,
right? Well, you were just talking about like Rob Liefeld doing Batman. I mean, it sounds like he would want Zack Snyder to direct that for him. So
yeah, I'd watch it.
Oh hell yeah!
I mean, we're comic book fans. We'll watch them all. Like we will watch them all of it. I fucking
when it comes on Redbox.
I saw Venom like opening night. Like I will go see everything. Like I just don't. They have me. Like I don't care. You know what I mean? But yeah, there's certain comics that you can just kind of take and do your own spin on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what independent comics are so good, because you can just, if you don't like it, then you can just stop. And it's not like, oh, you're missing out on what's happening in Superman.
Yeah.
It's sort of like, it's its own thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I think that's also why a lot of these comics are not running as long as Walking Dead has run.
Because they have their story to tell.
Yeah, they've got a story in mind with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Most importantly, the end. Like, they're not doing it just because, well, as long as I'm alive, I can keep doing this, and as long as I keep doing this, it's going to make me money. I will keep doing this as long as I'm alive.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it that way. It's like, all right, cool. I've got about 60 or 75 issues in mind for my story. Yeah, I'll do that many, and then I'll end it, and then I'll move on and do something else. Yeah. Which also is probably like super appealing to these guys, because I feel like a lot of these creator-owned comics are being made by creators who love like nothing more than their new idea.
Yeah.
Like, so it's which is cool and not cool to some extent in both directions. It's cool because they're always coming up with cool new ideas, and they just did something else you liked. So it's like, oh cool, he's doing something new, and I get to get that too. Like, you get to ride that vibe with them. Trouble is when they don't finish the thing that you were into before, and you're like, is this ever gonna finish? Because it's taken a lot longer than I expected, and I'm already getting these other 3 things that he's come up with since he started that other thing.
Yeah.
So.
But that'd be like if Steven Spielberg just kept making Jaws movies for his entire career.
Right?
He's like, this is the one good thing, or at the time, he's like, this is the one good thing I've done.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, Duel came first and it's fucking amazing. But I'm just saying, like, he's like, this is what made me money.
Yeah,
I'm doing Jaws for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's important to see them go on and do their own thing and explore new territory. And then eventually just start making, like, Ready Player One.
well, and I guess actually, so that is... with Rat Queens, exactly what happened is they just handed it off to a new creative team.
Right. Yeah. Well, didn't one of them go to jail?
Yeah.
It was like one of the artists, I think.
Yeah. The artist that co-created it.
Yeah. Okay.
Went to jail for domestic abuse and owns the rights to the everything in the first trade. So I'm not gonna say pirate the first trade, but if you start with
so that means that they're not reprinting it anymore at Image.
No, they're reprinting it.
Oh, they are. Okay.
But if you grab the second one, that's a lot more
ethical.
Yeah, a lot easier to buy.
Yeah.
And then the writers just burnt out on it now.
Okay.
Because what is it? 5 trades they've done?
I think so. It's around that many.
Just burnt out on it. Working with the different artists too, who didn't create it, you know, and all that stuff. So it's been sort of a thing. So they're handing it off to a completely new creative team. And, so it's essentially a big 2 book now.
Right. Yeah.
It's gonna follow different characters and everything. They're rebooting it.
Okay. Cool.
So yeah, it's literally like the Spider-Man of indie books now.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, that's cool. I mean, and it'll be interesting to see as that develops, like what that does for Image. Like, oh, can we do this? Can this be a thing?
I mean, the guy owns the books. He can do whatever he wants with it. So I mean, that is something to think about. Is if these creators do want to sort of ghoul out their their stories, like how is that going to work? Is it going to? But at the same time, Image can't interfere with anyone.
Right.
So you know, they're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah, actually, I would say it's really surprising that something like it hasn't already happened, like, really, really early. Like,
because I think most of the time, if a image writer doesn't like their book anymore,
Right.
they stop writing it, and it's done.
Yeah.
And, even if they wanted to hand it over to someone else, it's like, wait, I'm going to write an image book, but I don't own any of it.
Right, yeah, but it's not my book.
Yeah.
Why am I here? Yeah,
So,
that's a good point. Because I feel like there's a bunch of them. Like, I mean, Powers, he could have handed it off to a couple of different people if he wanted to.
yeah, well, if
He
he
doesn't
wanted
want to, but
yeah.
if he wanted to, he could have.
But
Yeah, that's totally different.
well, I mean, that's a different situation. It's not like he got off Powers. He's like, well, I'm going to stop writing comics for a little while.
Right. Yeah.
No,
yeah. Also true.
he's cranking them out.
Yeah. 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 He's got what, like 6 books coming out right now. A couple are miniseries, but a lot of them are ongoing.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
We're talking about Bendis.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. Just because it's kind of.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I know. Bendis wrote Powers. I'm just saying, like.
Yeah.
But you know what I was thinking, just while you guys were saying that, we were talking about Spider-Man. Spider-Man is one of the most unique aspects of, like, why I don't give a shit about canon. Because there's, like, multiple different ages that you can tell a Spider-Man story. And so, like, people are like, well, I want to tell a high school Spider-Man story.
Yeah.
But he's, like, a fucking college professor and shit like that.
Yeah.
And it kind of rubber bands back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's... Spider-Man is one of those ones where I'm like, if there was no canon for this...
Yeah.
I mean, granted, Spider-Man is also, like, a soap opera.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm just saying, like...
Well, comics are like
well,
soap operas.
Yeah.
Generally speaking. The superhero comics, I should say.
Yeah.
All the continuities are getting kind of weird, especially with the older books, because, like, all right, so Reed Richards was old during World War II, and now, so now he's like 150 in universe, but we're gonna acknowledge his past when it benefits the story, but we're not gonna acknowledge the implications of it.
Right.
And so, like, all the continuities are getting that weird. Captain America,
it's getting to the point where he was frozen for 100
years.
years.
Yeah, he should start looking his actual age at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's been unfrozen since the 60s.
Yes, right. But, our 60s and their 60s are not the same. Well, so there's a couple ways that you might be able to explain this. I don't know. But one thing that I heard years ago, I'm not even sure where I heard this or like if it's at all true, but I've heard that the Marvel Universe, as far as like their canon or whatever, like the Marvel Universe is never older than 15 years.
Everything happened about 10 to 15 years
Yeah,
ago.
right. So if that's, which I don't really know exactly how that reconciles, but
I mean, what the fuck are you gonna do?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, so by that logic, Cap has only been unfrozen for 10 to 15 years, so he should maybe still look older than he does look, but
So he was unfrozen during like the Iraq War.
Right.
Why didn't they just fucking throw him in that? They fucking made that shit a lot easier.
He actually wasn't discovered. It was just global warming melting the glacier.
Yeah, right. Yeah, seriously, he just kind of slid out.
Yeah,
they didn't have to melt the iceberg or anything.
Or they even do that with the Hulk a lot too, where it's like one run he'll like be in complete control, and then the next one it's just like he's a rampaging monster and he can't be stopped, and it's like back forth.
Yeah.
Like, is the Hulk bad or is he good? You know what I mean?
I mean, I don't even know what war Frank Castle is supposed to have fought in at this point.
It's
well,
either...
I mean, like, even like Nick Fury, like what is he a veteran of like Operation Iraqi Freedom? Like,
right? Yeah.
Well, isn't like fucking wasn't there like a Punisher Max series or something? It might have been the Jason Aaron one where the Punisher was like actually how old he was supposed to be, and he was like 60 or 70 years old or something. I feel like there was an out of canon run.
They
like,
did.
with Max.
There was it got popular at Marvel to start doing whatever character at the end. And I know there was a Punisher at the end. I forget. I'm pretty sure I read it too, but I don't remember what happens in it. I want to say that was the one that was like a post-nuclear war or something like that.
Oh, because they did Hulk the end.
Yeah,
by Peter, which is actually like really good.
Yeah, Wolverine the end. Paul Jenkins, who did Origin, did that. So it was like, I think the way they were able to market that one specifically was like, oh, the guy that did the very first Wolverine story is now doing the very last Wolverine story, and it's like,
yeah,
it wasn't as good. It was fine, but it wasn't that good.
It's never the very last Wolverine story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, unless Hugh Jackman decides to quit, in which case it is the very last Wolverine story.
They'll recast it.
Oh yeah, but with that continuity, because that has such such good continuity.
Yeah, it's super clear exactly what happened and in what order.
It's weird how like I have flipped on the X-Men continuity, the X-Men film series, in terms of like, oh sorry, I remember back in like 2014 when like Days of Future Past was coming out,
Yeah.
and I was saying, I was like, well, or they were even marketing it. They're like, this
Yeah.
is the one that fixes the continuity problems, and it's like clean from here, and then they just fuck it up even more with like Apocalypse and Deadpool and Logan. But like now, I'm totally okay with a fucked up X-Men continuity.
Oh yeah.
Because anybody that makes a movie from here on out can just do whatever they want with anything.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Charles Xavier fought in like the fucking, or he was around during like the fucking 1960s, but for some reason in like 2020,
Wizard did it.
Yeah, he's still like,
At this point, the X-Men can just a wizard did it to,
yeah,
to anything.
Yeah, well, yeah, and once you're unbound by previous continuity or any external continuities, then you can J.J. Abrams this stuff, and we've seen what that does to franchises that have more continuity.
Oh, like Terminator Genesis.
Yes. What about the best Terminator movie?
You're not coming back after that comment.
No, I'm
just
kidding.
kidding.
Everyone knows that the best Terminator movie was the short-lived TV series, The Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Oh, that was a pretty decent show, though.
Yeah, Summer
Not gonna lie,
Glau
I
as a
enjoyed it.
Terminator.
Yes, Summer Glau.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was good. Lena Headey as
Yeah.
Sarah Connor. I mean, Cersei Lannister. Oof.
No, it was a great show.
Yeah.
That's why it was the best movie.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, I could probably get behind that. That was a really fun show.
I remember I saw Summer Glau at a panel at a comic convention. I think it was Stanley's Comic Con.
What was she doing there?
And
yeah, what was she there for? What panel was she at?
it may have been the Cape. I don't know.
She wasn't in a cape.
Yes, she was.
How dare you?
Yes, she was. But I don't know what the fuck she was there for. But
Firefly.
I mean,
Yeah,
some kind of
probably.
Firefly reunion.
No,
such and
no
such.
matter what the panel was, she was
Right,
there
yeah.
because she was in Firefly,
Yeah, that's true. That's
So-
the reason. Yeah. Oh.
which is sad.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that as far as the Cape goes, I really like. There were so many people that I kind of like in the Cape, anyways. Like, I can't like fault them for having done the Cape.
like Vinnie Jones.
Like Vinnie Jones and
Yeah.
Keith David.
I love Keith David.
Keith David's fucking great.
And see, the Cape is one of those ones where you're unbound by continuity and you can do whatever you want. It's a real creator-driven storyline. Just kidding.
Lasted,
So you,
like,
sorry,
6
we
episodes.
interrupted your story. You were at a panel with
Oh
Summer
yeah,
Glau.
So I was just saying. This is totally off topic, but I just remember somebody was like, "Would you want to play X-23?" And she's just like, "I guess." Like she just like had no fucking clue. It was, like
Yeah.
extra, which I don't blame her.
Yeah,
like,
she's like, if you give me a minute to Google X23, I can give a more.
yeah.
I can't blame her for not knowing, but now that I hear that, like that would be, I would
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
sign up for
yeah,
that.
Yeah, that's
So
a
I
pretty
would-
casting right
I
there.
would pre-order my ticket on Fandango.
And if Fandango wants to sponsor us, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Along
Anyone
with
wants to sponsor us? MeUndies, get on it.
Yeah.
Squatty Potty. Fucking Kathy Griffin's out.
Audible,
Pop Talks is in.
Audible, you still sponsor every podcast?
Yeah. We have to work in a really shitty like Audible ad at the end of it too. It's like speaking of,
Like if you like comic books but hate the pictures,
you get Audible.
you hate
And
the
also
pictures
hate
and also
reading.
hate the words.
Yeah,
Yeah, and also hate the reading part of books.
Are you a comic book fan who's recently been struck blind?
We say recently because like, obviously blind people have a way to read.
Yeah.
but
You,
we can
you haven't
read
learned
to
Braille
you.
yet,
Yeah.
but you still jonesing for your
Yeah.
stories.
But you still need to figure out what happened in the latest fucking Patricia Cornwell novel.
Yeah, I would happily advertise whatever the lowest selling Audible audiobook is on here.
I
'Cause
would
that,
too.
That would actually be really really entertaining.
It would be funny. What is it, like fucking the new Dan Brown, Robert Langdon book or some shit?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's someone we've never heard of, right? It's like
Well,
that's
are you not familiar with Audible Originals? If you are not, sorry to break into a real Audible ad, but if you're an Audible member, every month you do get 2 free Audible Originals books, which are just books by whoever they feel like.
Oh, okay.
I recently got a cookbook by Nick Offerman.
What?
It's an audiobook. I haven't listened to it yet.
That sounds pretty good.
But it's a cookbook inspired by the works of Mark Twain, written by Nick Offerman.
Huh.
So gonna give that a listen.
Let me know how that dead cat stew turns out.
Yeah, I don't
Cures
know.
warts.
But it was free.
Yeah.
And so anything that's free, because I'm an American, if I didn't pay for it, I assume it doesn't have any value.
Uh-huh.
So
So
it
it
can't be
doesn't-
that great.
So it's not narrated by Nick Offerman.
It is.
written-
I
It
think-
is.
I think it is.
Dude, if it really is, that's a fucking sweet deal.
Yeah.
I would listen to that, man. Read the phone book.
you can still get it, but you have to pay for it because it's not on the this month's
So that's
free
not
books.
as fun.
Well, phooey. But
like,
that just shows that
You
I should have
gotta
already
drop
been
those
signed
$3.
up. I should have already signed up for Audible. What a waste of my time.
Are we getting paid for this?
No,
Not
I'm
yet.
gonna stop talking about why I love Audible so much and listen to it constantly.
You can listen to the new fucking Todd McFarlane autobiography on there. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing?
It's not even an actual auto. It's just him talking about himself for as long as like a recorder can.
You wanna hear something fucking hilarious? I sent this to you too. This made me laugh so hard. Todd McFarlane posted on. Let me see if I can. I think I screenshotted it on fucking Martin Luther King Day.
Oh yeah,
Nope.
you told me
Nope.
about that.
I'm not okay with any of this.
Yes,
I don't know what it is.
Oh, right here. He posted a
Yeah.
picture of the Spawn movie, and he said in 1997, hashtag Spawn movie was the hashtag first full-length superhero film with a minority character lead. Enjoy hashtag Martin Luther King Day, and then all caps Todd.
Complete heel.
Isn't that amazing? He can't even have like Martin Luther King Day go by without like making it about himself.
He probably was like looking online or like out the window and was like, "Hey, I'm getting a vibe out of the world today. What's happening? What's everybody excited about? Oh, Todd, it's Martin Luther King Day. What?
The only consolation is that is not the worst Martin Luther King Day post that went up that day.
Middling at best,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah.
It was just inappropriate instead of wildly inappropriate.
As long as he's still allowed to direct the movie, I guess it didn't hurt him at all.
Yeesh.
Has anybody seen the movie, the Spawn movie?
Spawn movie, yeah.
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 It's fucking awesome.
It's classic.
It's an achievement for Martin Sheen. I'm just
It's-
kidding. Actually, Leguizamo fucking crushes it though.
Exactly. It's fucking awesome.
I
in,
like
the
that movie.
Yeah,
in the worst way
good movie.
possible.
I mean, it's well, and again, it's fucking 1997. You seen some of those movies from 1997?
Yeah, I've seen the Phantom.
They're not all Independence Day and Men in Black or whatever was also good around that time.
Yeah, those are some good movies.
Yeah.
What year was The Crow?
1994.
How did they beat 1997 and 1994? Because that's the best of the bunch.
Yeah.
No. When was The Crow 2 City of Angels? Because that was even better.
It's probably like I would guess it was just a couple of years after that.
I'd say
Maybe it was 97.
No, maybe.
That might explain it.
I mean, it wasn't better in the cinematic sense,
Mhm.
but it was shown on TV for free a lot.
Nice. Even better.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
on HBO or whatever.
I think I
No,
got it on
free
network
TV.
TV.
Free
Yeah.
TV.
No, it was 1996. And I just want to clarify when
Well,
I said
it
this.
probably
yeah.
would have gone to TV by 97. World broadcast premiere. What was it that we saw an ad for that was on TBS?
Spawn.
It was Spawn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We were looking through some old back issues, and yeah, there was an ad for TBS, Superstation or whatever the hell, like the world cable television premiere or whatever of Spawn.
It's just a random like promotional still. It's not even like a poster. It's just like a promotional still.
Oh yeah, that's right. You took a fucking photo.
Yeah, I took a picture of it because I could send it to my best bro Corey. I know he's not listening, but hi Corey. And it's the caption is, "And you thought you were good at raising a little hell." Spawn, starring Martin Sheen and John Leguizamo. And then there's a big explosion that says, "Chat with Todd McFarlane on TBSSuperstation.com."
That's right. Yeah, go to the
TBS.
TBS Superstation chat room.
TBS, it's a guy thing.
I forgot they used to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, right?
I mean, I don't know if I even knew that they did that in the first place, but it makes total sense.
That was before Spike TV.
Oh yes, right.
Which
now
was
Paramount Network.
You could only switch to Spike TV if you used your penis to press the buttons on the remote, because it's only for guys. This is TV for guys. Get your women TV out of here.
What did Spike TV have? Oh, it had a bar rescue.
Spike TV, didn't they have they had the Blade TV series?
Oh yeah,
Like didn't Goyer and Jeff Johns?
Yeah.
David S. Goyer and
Yeah,
Jeff
I'm
Johns
ripping
both
them, but
worked
they
on
had some good shows.
that? Yeah.
They had
it was-
Catch
it
a
was-
Contractor.
No, they had good shows. It was just wrapped in bullshit. Like,
Yeah.
It was just wrapped in like Adam and Eve ads.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Adam and Eve, if you'd like to sponsor this podcast,
Right.
Yeah, I can do a pretty good sexy voice.
Extreme Restraints.
Is that a show?
No, Extreme
Oh.
Restraints. That's an erotic supplies website
Oh,
that sponsors podcasts.
Did they make swings?
They make everything.
All right.
We'll tell you more if they sponsor.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, we don't want to give away too much because then they're just getting free advertising.
I'm already looking them up. know.
Was the Man Show on Spike?
Comedy Central, I think.
Yes.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. So that's why it was a little bit better
Yeah, probably.
than it would have been. Do we have anything else to say about Image Comics?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask.
We went off like the fucking rails.
It was fucking
I know, it's fun.
Well, I mean, when you don't have the continuity tying you back, you
Yeah.
just go anywhere you want. You
You
just
can
tell
just
the story that you
tell the story you want. Yeah.
Then yeah. But no, I think that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
Image Comics.
Most of them are great.
Yeah. And if you don't like them, stop reading them.
Yeah, read
you know?
something else from Image because you'll
Yeah.
probably like that. Because there's something for everybody. I mean, as far as comics go, there's something for everybody. But yeah, if you're looking for something that doesn't necessarily have capes and tights, try Image first, and then move on from there.
Yeah, and then go read IDW for like Disney licensed stuff
And
Yeah.
Transformers.
and Transformers.
And
Yeah.
Star Trek.
Yeah.
Actually, loads of licensed stuff
Actually-
over there. Ninja Turtles is coming up on their 100th issue for this current volume.
Actually, I would say read Dynamite and read all their takes on the classic pulp heroes.
Yeah,
So that's
lots of
pretty
Golden
good,
Age
too.
stuff
Yeah,
over there.
There's lots of stuff that's not the big two. That's pretty.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
you know what I tell you guys to order all the time
Mhm.
is the stuff I want to read is all over the place.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, stuff other than Big Two, and then Archie, which I don't read, but
Oh yeah.
that's its own thing.
Archie's out there. I've been getting it. I don't remember the last one I read, but I've been getting it for a while. Yeah. Ooh, boy.
Yeah.
Archie. Still a thing.
I kind of want to read Sabrina. The
Oh
one
yeah.
that's
Oh
coming up.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally getting that. Yeah. It's gonna be.
And Netflix sold me on it. Better.
Oh
better
yeah. Right.
Better than Riverdale sold me on Archie.
Yeah. Yeah, those are spectacular. Maybe the next podcast will have to be about Archie comics and the shows that have been spawned out of them.
Yeah, Archie has almost a crazier history, I think, than Image.
Oh.
Just because it's lasted so long,
Right.
and it's got like one title, Happy Days the comic.
Happy Days. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also like way before Happy Days, because Archie's as old
Yeah.
as Superman.
Yeah, it didn't start out as a nostalgia comic.
Right.
It just didn't age
Yeah, right.
with reality.
It's so it's probably like, I mean, The Simpsons would probably look like Archie if it had started in the 1930s, right? Ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but
So read more independent comics, everyone.
Yes.
so thanks for having me, you guys.
Yeah.
it was
No
a
worries.
pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here.
You're
You are
welcome.
coming back. I was just joking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
You are more than welcome to come back. We need something else we can make fun of next time too.
Well, does the audience know what you look like?
Oh,
Hey-o.
thanks.
I'm just kidding. We need an audience for that joke to work.
It's not a bad one to end on though.
Even we're probably not going to listen to this episode, right, guys? I mean, come on. That's
I'm
fine.
gonna post it on Facebook. I'm gonna send a text message to my mom with a link to this episode.
What's great is that very few people will make it till the end, so they won't even hear the
Right.
show.
Yeah.
If anybody is still listening, we thank you.
And I'm sorry about your insomnia.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here, John.
Yes. Thank you, John. This is great.
And we'll try not to be another 4 months before making another one.
We'll try.
We'll do our best. But until then, we'll see you guys next time.